Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Today, it's meant to be for part two for your lecture week number 3. I haven't seen any questions from the other from yesterday on the Google Doc. So I think I can take any question you might have. I guess you might guys may want to clarify anything you still have doubts about the programming test number 1. That's okay too. So I'll open the floor right away and we'll see how that goes. All right.
Okay, I do have one question for the programming.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Oh, is my mic on?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for the programming test, like you mentioned before, so it's not going to cover loops or anything, right? Just everything
Correct.
before.
No loops.
Okay.
Be explicit over here. So we talk about your programming. Oh, sorry, it's too thick. So we talk about your. You know what, guys? Let me close my email notification. Otherwise, it's a bit disturbing. Okay. Yeah, I think I better write down whatever I say today, so you can also. Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about programming test number 1, and what you were just asking me was, okay, number 1, no loops for sure.
Okay.
Only if statements and also elementary programming. Only those 2 topics. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, is this? I'm pretty sure it's going to be, but are we allowed to use your iPad notes when coding, or is this absolutely like closed book test? We shouldn't be looking at the video.
Yep. I think okay. So okay, here's a principle. Okay, so it's open book. Okay, let me define that. Okay, what do I really mean open book? Okay, so you can use any resources made available by your instructor, which is me, of course, made by Jackie, for example. Okay, so let's be clear about what resources we are talking about. For example, iPad notes, for sure, you can definitely use it. Any concept or any example code I show on the iPad, you can feel free to reuse them. It would not be considered as cheating. That's definitely fine. All right, and also slides, and also tutorials. Of course, the most complete example you will get from for Java programs will be from your weekly Java tutorial for sure. If you find any part of your test question solution you think it might be applicable to use a Java tutorial code, feel free. That's okay. Okay. However, my friendly advice, copy and paste, and also to really dig in to the part in the tutorial might take some time. So sometimes it might be easier if you simply write the lines from scratch. Of course, if you forget what the code should be, you can feel free to look at the tutorial. That's okay. All right. Let me see that these should be the resources. And as I mentioned earlier today, I make an announcement to all the 3 sections. What's the no? Okay. So if you try to don't search on the web, okay, web resources. So for example, let's say, I'll just say for example, if let's say the problem itself is about calculating the average amount, let's say 5 numbers, right? And then somehow maybe your fellow student wouldn't know how to do it, and then they simply just Google for the solution. And maybe they somehow Google a particular solution that's very unique. I mean, the variable's name is very unique, and then the way they calculate things are very unique by doing casting and etc. That would not be allowed, right? You shouldn't really search for the solution on the web. That's not allowed. That's not part of the open book policy.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't do it. So let me explain just a little bit more for those who might be curious. Why? Because if somehow multiple students are somehow just happen to get the same web resources for their solution, so their code will look just the same or very suspiciously the same. In that case, they will be caught by cheating. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let me just put a big cross over here just to remind everybody. Okay. I'm pretty sure everybody will obey. So, does that answer your question?
It does, actually. I think it brought up a new one because I haven't been using web resources for the lab either, but like, are we allowed to use it for the lab? Not the test.
Oh, yeah, lab as well. Yes, correct. So I think for the lab, I forgot to mention. So the labs, you can say your code, your own code.
Yeah.
Plus, sample solution. That's also fine since we made available to you, so you can use them.
Yeah.
That's
So
definitely fine.
when working on the labs, like we shouldn't be using web resources. I haven't been using them, but like
Yeah, actually, I would say when you, you know what, it's a little bit, I can say it's a little bit around the boundary line. Okay, I can explain that. So I can give you some analogy. Okay, I'm not sure if you ever took an English essay course or maybe social science. When the professor asks you to write an essay, right? They will tell you that, okay, it will be okay for you to maybe look up somebody else's opinion on the web. However, you should not just copy and paste verbatim, because if you simply copy and paste verbatim and claiming that that's yours, in that case, you would for sure be plagiarism, because they can easily identify the style of writing is actually inconsistent with the rest of your essay. It will be a kind of analogous to the programming context in the following sense. So let's say if you're doing your labs, somehow you just cannot find any inspiration. You just need maybe something similar to really to make some reference of. I would say it would be okay to search the web a little bit, maybe to find solution for a similar problem. Okay, that would be okay. However, what you should not do, okay, let me put it down explicitly. Let's talk about just the labs rather than programming tests, right? Number one, it would be okay to search the web for maybe something similar, okay?
like syntaxes or
Yeah,
like
syntax
that,
or
right?
maybe even ideas. I think that's still fine, okay? However, number two, it would not be okay. Not okay if you simply just directly copy and paste.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just wondering since I
yeah.
mean most of the
It's
code right
definitely
now,
yeah, it's definitely
yeah,
good that you asked me. So what would be allowed? Let's say, for example, so we say not okay if you directly copy and paste. It would be okay if you try to understand what's going on. The source that you actually search on web, and then you kind of develop based on your understanding from scratch the code. In that case, it's very unlikely you will just end up having the same code, right? That's what I meant. Yeah. So develop from
yeah,
scratch. Yeah.
yeah. It was just I mean, yeah, all the previous labs have been pretty easy so far, but yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to know for future reference since they're
Yes.
probably going to get
Exactly. Yeah.
harder.
Yeah. So I think for your lab number 4 that's coming, and also for lab number 5, they will be more challenging because we're going to introduce the ideas about manipulating arrays and also the loops. So I think that will be slightly harder. So, but
Yeah,
it's yeah, just know where the boundary is, and then always, if you are not too sure about whether you should do this or not, always just ask. It wouldn't hurt.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No
Yeah,
problem. Okay. Very good. So guys, my feeling is, since you guys took a very nice course from either Michael or Amir from last term, so I think if statements and also elementary programming shouldn't be too much challenge for you. I'll be very happy to know that. So that's why maybe it's not, so far not too many questions. That's good, right? I think think about lab programming test number 1 is just to make sure you really get you grasp the basic syntax for the Java. And then later on, when we move on to the more complicated manipulation for arrays and loops, you will be more comfortable of getting that challenge. And then after the reading week, we definitely will start talking about objects and also talk about how different objects, different classes interact with each other. That would definitely require more engagement from you, intellectually, right? Well, we'll get there, right? All right, guys. Any more questions?
Um. Hmm. So for the labs, what type of like other what type of other test cases do we have to look out for? Like, what test cases do you tend to like make test cases for the labs that don't cover
Mm-hmm.
a basic sort of case that you'd normally encounter, or do we have to start looking out for that?
Are you talking about labs or the programming test? Labs, right?
Either or, honestly. Like,
So are you asking what kind of test cases we will give to you, or what kind of test cases we wouldn't give to you? Is that kind of the question?
what kind of test cases will you not give to us that we should look out for?
Okay, you know what? It's really hard to answer this in principle or in general. I mean, like I have a single answer because every programming task is different, right? I can give you one example. Okay, so this example I used, very basic one just to illustrate. For example, let's say you're supposed to program this particular method. Okay, let's say Boolean is positive, right? Very trivial method, but that will illustrate the point. Let's say integer and then I. Okay, let's say of course you got public static as well. Okay, good.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about it briefly. So in order to somehow as thoroughly test this one as possible, right? You definitely need to test maybe for 3, some number for 3 such that it's actually positive, so it will give you true. And also maybe 0 is not positive, so that should really give you false, right? And also maybe in a negative number -2, that should give you maybe false, right? So this will be reasonably complete test cases. Maybe for the lab itself, maybe we'll only give you this. For example, this might be just given to you and then just get you started. And then we will, and then you're supposed to read into the problem description about the method. Since I over here, we cannot make any assumption about what I should be. So that means for any given number, it can either be positive, 0, or negative. So you also got to think about what happened if these two kind of numbers are given. What should be the value? So these will be the ones you got to figure out. So that'll be one example.
Okay. But which one? But will you tend to give us like? Will you tend to give us like a positive, a 0, and a negative, or?
Well, I don't know. It's I would say all the 3, they're simply different categories of the input, right? You can think about any number that's positive, like a 3, 100, 121. They belong to the positive category, right? And also 0, well, just itself. And also -2, -3, -46, and etc. I wouldn't say which category is actually more important than others, but since the name of the method is simply about is positive, so we might just give you just one, right? And then you just gotta need to figure out others. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But
don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we'll only give you 33% of the test, and then the other 66% will be up to you. Not necessarily. We might leave out maybe some boundary cases. Maybe some.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I will have to be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go through. Yeah, I'll have to go through my own lab for that then.
Yeah. So yeah, guys. For those of you who might be want to get some tips about the test tomorrow, I can say several things. Of course, this will be recorded as well, so I'm being fair to everybody. Right. I would say you definitely want to make sure you're really comfortable with writing the basic syntax, right? You want to make sure you always put the matching brackets, always put the semicolon at the end. I'm sure you're okay with that. That should be okay.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the more challenging bit for tomorrow, I'm not sure because I can tell you that some questions were designed by me and some questions were designed by Movelet, the instructor from section O. So I'm not too sure which version. I think we review each other's questions. So I think they're roughly at the same level of difficulty. So I think it's fair to everybody. There might be some questions that you would know how to do it right away. So you definitely want to tackle them first as soon as possible. There might be, as I said yesterday, there will be between 3 to 4 methods that you have to implement, okay? There might be, for example, maybe one method over there that you find maybe just hard. I put in quote, right? Hard in the sense that you just haven't seen that before. So you're not exactly sure how to tackle that, right? I kind of talk about it yesterday briefly. I can say again very quickly. In case you kind of encounter this kind of problem here, you find it hard simply because you haven't seen them before. So I would say, number one, read the comments that's given to you about the methods. You will talk about what kind of inputs you will take, and also what should be the return value, and if there's any error condition for the input. For example, if the input negative should not be allowed, so you should really generate some error message for negative input. And then after reading the comments for the methods, you should also, very important, I would say that's equally important to the reading the comments. you should always look at the JUnit tests that we give to you. I think for each method, we give you between, let me just try to see, between 5 to 10 tests that will be given to you. I think those will be very reasonable for you to definitely get started. And then once you're done passing all the JUnit tests for that particular method, you can then think about how you can add some extra ones. So that'll be the flow I'll recommend. Okay. Okay, no problem. I think me and Movelet, we thought we tried to be not so harsh for the first test. Well, I shouldn't use the word harsh. I try to be not too difficult this time. But we'll see how that goes. If everybody finds this kind of difficulty reasonable, then we might just leave it the same. For next time. We'll see how it goes.
I mean, it should be reasonable for like the people who. I mean, the thing is that you've made the course so that it's possible to do it. For even people who haven't taken like Amir's course or 1015. So like the thing is that you basically either have to make it that for the people who have done those courses, it's going to be pretty easy, presumably, in case unless they've really done something wrong, right?
Yeah, we'll see. I think the bottom line, we try not to assume any Java knowledge, but we only assume maybe some very basic computing skills. So we will see how that goes. Yeah. So we got four programming tests. We'll see how things go for everybody. Right.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Any more questions? I'm happy to answer. Guys, anything else you want to ask me? Feel free. Otherwise, we can save time by finishing much earlier. That's okay. It's really, the session is really for you. Okay.
Anyone else want to have any questions? There seems to be a question. Oh no, that's nothing. Okay. Yeah, that's all I really had to ask.
Okay, no problem.
I probably would have more questions if I'd been smart enough to do the actual lab test. The actual like preparatory lab test before we did this. Which, by the way, I recommend everyone next time around to do that because that's smarter than what I did. But instead, I haven't. So, yeah, that's actually kind of an issue.
Yeah, I'll say the example. Yeah, the example test I gave to you. I think that one will be worth doing. That one for sure will get yourself familiar with the workflow for the test, and then the same flow is going to be the same for all the subsequent tests. So for sure, yeah. Somebody had a question.
Yeah, I have a question. So I want to know, when is the programming test going to be marked? Is it going to be marked before the actual test, the practice test?
You mean you mean the practice test?
Yeah, I submitted it a few days ago.
Oh yeah, so the practice test will not be marked. Actually, we actually mentioned that. So that one's only meant for you to really practice about the flow, and also the methods there are reasonably easy. So you can maybe just look at the sample solution if you're not too sure. So that one wouldn't be marked.
Okay, thank you.
So Armin, if you want to get feedback, you still got tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow, if you want me to check any part of your code,
I finished like a few days ago. I submitted it.
Yeah. So my point is, yeah, we're not going to grade them. Yeah, that was only for you to practice the submission process. That's why we allow you to actually submit multiple times if you wish, right?
So as long as you pass all the test cases and you followed all the rules, you won't lose any marks, right? You'll get 100.
No. Except for one thing you missed. All the test cases we give to you for sure. You want to pass them for sure. However, there will be some additional tests that will run on your code, right?
Wait, so
you might lose some marks
that are not in the test utilities file.
Correct. There might be some tests that are not there, as we mentioned. So you might lose some marks from that.
Will the test cases in the test utilities, like, will they be designed in some way where that if you get all of them, you'll also get the ones that you aren't testing?
Not necessarily. I think if you program in a way, well, also depends on how you program with them, right? Some people like to hard code their methods. with
don't
respect to what they're
hard-code.
given. If that's the case, then passing all the tests given to you wouldn't lead you too far. But
No,
if
but
you
like-
somehow use the test method as a guidance for you to think about what you might have been missing that haven't been tested yet, then you can definitely write some additional test cases to help yourself.
Like, how many test
So-
methods will there be?
Hmm?
How many test methods will there be?
So as I said, between 5 and 10 for each utility method.
So if you don't hard code anything and you actually do it and you pass all the test utilities, you'll probably also pass the additional test cases.
You know, I cannot really say for sure because it's a very general question there. You know, every utility method is different. I can say, yeah, it's very likely if you follow the rule and then if you didn't hard code it and then you really know what you're doing and then you pass all the test cases, then I would say it's likely that you will pass many of the additional tests. That's the best I can say. You know, I cannot say for individual examples, right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I think Armin, another way for you to get some feedback would be, let's say you really pass all the test cases given to you in the test, but if you ended up that you didn't really get full marks for your test because there might be some additional test cases you failed. I think around that time, it would be nice to maybe I'm not too sure. I think in principle we are not going to release the solution for the test. For labs we are willing to, but for the test we may not release the solution. So in that case, if you want to know exactly what you failed on the additional test, you can speak to me maybe during the office hour. I'll be happy to talk. That might be a nice way for you to know next time what kind of test cases you should really focus on developing yourself.
All right, what about the labs? Are you also going to put in additional test cases in the labs?
Yeah, as we said in the instruction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think I know it would be very convenient if somehow you're given everything you're going to be tested. You know, after you submit the code. It is the case for lab 1 and lab 2, and there will be no surprise. But
Great.
we also want you to, as I said, we also want you to know that when you write your code, you shouldn't rely on somebody else's test to tell you that your code is correct. You should actually try to test to a certain degree that you'll be confident to declare my code is actually correct. I think that'll be the right mindset to have when you're programming.
Okay, so say we didn't hard code anything and we passed all the test utilities cases, but then we failed some of your test cases. How much marks would we lose?
I cannot answer that for now because depends on how many we have over there.
Oh, so like there's a section and there'll be like test cases passed out of total test cases, and then that's like a section of your mark.
Yeah, so it depends on how many additional ones we got, right? So
like how many additional ones would you have?
I don't know. I cannot say for individual methods, right? You're asking for
In general, like
yeah. In general, I really cannot say. There will be some additional ones.
some additional. Okay,
Mm-hmm. All right,
thank you.
no problem. Guys, anything else about lecture materials, tutorials, or the test? Anything else?
Yeah, I have a few questions about the programming test.
Go ahead.
So I went through the guide, the PDF, and I just wanted to ask, since this was not really included, it's gonna be the same as the example programming test. So it's gonna be three things that we're gonna have to program, right?
No, just one thing, the utilities method, the utilities class.
Yeah, so it's one task, or is it three? That's what I'm
You mean
trying
how
to
many
say.
methods? As I mentioned,
Yeah,
as
how
I
many
said,
methods?
between 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
And I was also gonna ask, there isn't gonna be a console app that's gonna be available for us, right?
There will be one, like the one you were given for the practice test. There will be one where the scanner is declared. But if you want to develop that further, you may go ahead and do so, but it's not required.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we should be able to go through our tests and stuff without the console app.
Absolutely, absolutely. You should be able to just go over the JUnit tests,
Mhm.
which will cover which will cover quite a good, reasonable parts of the input. And then if you can, you should really try to write maybe some additional test cases to make sure your program works.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. Guys, anything else? Armin, are you okay? He looks a little bit nervous. Are you okay?
Me? Are you talking to me?
Yeah, of course, Armin. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Are
I'm
you
good.
feeling okay?
I've been in the house for a very long time and haven't gone out in a while.
Well, it's the same for everybody, right? I'm also stuck in the house for a long time already, you know. Every week, what I do is mainly just recording lectures and tutorials. It's yeah. I guess for you guys, just watching lectures and tutorials for every day. Yeah. Well, that's the situation we're gonna deal with. Yeah.
I just have one more question.
Yeah.
So for the labs, do we have any extra test cases, or like no? For the labs, all the test cases are like given to us.
For if for lab 1 and lab 2, you're given all the test cases, yes. But for
So
lab
you are
number
not
3,
running any extra ones, right?
no, not for lab 1 and lab 2.
Oh, okay,
but
okay.
for lab 3, as we emphasize in the requirements, you can check it out again. That one there tells you that we will run some additional tests.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, starting from lab 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Anything else? If no, then I should really let you go, and then you might have other things to catch up. All right. All right, guys. I'm gonna stop the recording now, and then good luck to tomorrow. You got 24 hours, and then if you want to speak to me, I still got office hour tomorrow, 1 p.m. All right, you're welcome to come. All right, take care.
Wait. So the lab test is tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes, correct.
It's from what time to what time?
Check your guide. That one says precisely when it starts.
Okay.
All right.